Hey guys, Forex here, hope you're all well. What you're looking at in front of you is a faulty PlayStation. It does output video and audio fine, however, it's not reading CDs. Now I know what you're saying, just swap the laser out, she'll be fine. This is not a laser issue, or it doesn't look like a laser issue. And the reason I know this is because I've seen this problem before. There are some telltale signs to what the problem is. So what I want to do now is hook up a fully working PlayStation, and we'll look and see what happens when that boots up, and then I'll show you what happens with this PlayStation when this boots up. I'll go through the differences, and then what I'll do is I'll move on to fix this PlayStation. So yeah, give me 5 minutes to set up, guys, and we'll crack on. Okay, what you're looking at is a 100% fully working PlayStation. This is the actual PlayStation I chipped and installed a new case to. If you want to go and check that video out, I'll put a link in the description. But yeah, this PlayStation is 100% working. What you're actually looking at is the laser unit, the laser block, and I want to show you what the PlayStation does when you power on a PlayStation. Now, the first thing you'll see is the laser slide will slide the laser right the way to the start of the disc. The second thing you'll see is the spindle motor will spin a couple of times, and then the laser focus will try and focus a couple of times. Now I'm going to show you that if I put my finger on the lid button so the PlayStation thinks the lid's closed and power on, you'll see those three things happen. And there you go. Now what I'm going to show you now is what happens on the faulty one. Now okay, I have the faulty PlayStation all looked up to give it a test. Now I've had to tilt it to the side so my lights will shine inside. Obviously the other PlayStation was transparent blue so it could shine through it. This one being original case, my lights can't shine through it, so I've had to tilt it to the side. All I'm going to do with this is put my finger on the lid sense button, power on, and see what we get. Now we should see exactly the same as before, where the slide moves forward, the spindle motor spins a couple of times, and the focus goes up and down a couple of times. So what I'm going to do is put my finger on the lid sense button and power on, and we get absolutely nothing. And you can probably hear the PlayStation booting up in the background. If I move my camera, you can probably just see that there's a PlayStation logo, and yeah, we've got absolutely nothing. Now because we've got nothing, and I've fixed a few PlayStations with this type of error before, I'm pretty confident I know what it is. Inside these later model PlayStations there's a chip that controls a number of things. It does the motor slide for the laser, it does the spindle motor, it also does the focus, and it does the tracking. And if that goes, this is what you get, a totally dead optical block. Now there is another test I can do. I can move the laser forward manually and put it at the start. Now if that chip has any signs of life, we should see the focus move up and down a couple of times like we did in the previous one, but I'm suspecting that chip may be dead and it's not. So what I'm going to do is move this forward manually now. Oh, I hate that sound. Yeah, and yeah, we're not getting anything. So yeah, I suspect that chip has died. Okay guys, what I want to do now is just make sure that none of the motors are seized up, like the spindle motor or the slide motor, because if I eventually go on to fix something else and these motors are seized up, then it's just going to probably go wrong again. So I want to test these just to make sure. So what I've got is I've got the spindle motor hooked up at the moment, and it's going to be powered by my bench power supply. Now I've set it for 1.5 volts and 100 milliamps. That's nice and safe. I'm not going to kill the motor off by giving it too much juice and power. So what I'm going to do now is power on, and we've got spin up. What I want to do is see how long this free spins for when I power it off. If I show you what it's drawing, it's 30 milliamps, which is nothing special. So what I'm going to do now is power off and see how long this free spins for, because if I power off and it pretty much stops straight away, that's a problem. If I power off and it free spins, then yeah, that's pretty much telling me the motor's fine. So I'm going to power off now, and yeah, this thing's free spinning fine. I don't think we've got any problem with the spindle motor. Yep, that thing's fine. So what I'm going to do now is move on to the slide motor. Okay, I'm ready to test the motor slide of the laser block. I'm hooked up. I've got 1.5 volts at 100 milliamps. What I'm expecting is the slide to move from left to right. So what I'm going to do now is turn the output on, and we'll see if it moves. Yeah, and it moved perfectly fine. Didn't get current limit, so that's a good sign. So what we can do is we can rule out the motor slide, and we can rule out the spindle motor. So what we need to look at next for being a culprit is the motor drive IC. Okay guys, I've got a bit of a confession to make. This is actually a couple of days later. I've already done some initial tests on the PlayStation, and I've found a problem, and I'm going to show you what that problem is right now. Remember earlier on when I said I suspect the motor driver IC failing? I still think it has failed, but what I want to show you is another aspect that I found. If we look at the motor driver IC, this is pretty much it. Sony's called it the Focus Tracking Coil Drive Motor Drive IC. Bit of a mouthful. Let's just call it the motor driver IC. It drives the spindle motor, you can see here. It drives the sled motor. It also does the focus and the tracking. Now what I want you to look at is the power rails for this IC. Here they are down here. Plus 8 volts and ground. Now what we want to do is track back, because there's a problem with this chip being powered. So if I skip to the next picture, and here's where the IC gets its power from. This is the connection to the PlayStation motherboard. Our power board plugs into this, and if we look on the right hand side, we can see that motor plus 8 volts. I'll show you that again. That was this point here. It's just Sony didn't have enough space to put it on the same schematic, so they just split it up like this, and we can see motor plus 8 volts, ground the motor, and that's pretty much going off to the motor driver IC. Now if we follow that back, what we come to is a test point. We go back a little bit further, you can see they're smoothing out the rail with a 47 microfarad electrolytic capacitor. We go back a bit further, we're going for a 1 microhenry inductor. And we go back again, and what do we see? A fuse. And what do you know? Inside this system, that fuse is blown. Now that could indicate that there's a problem with the motor driver IC, and I still think there is. What I think may have happened with the system is the motor driver IC has started to fail, and as it has done, it's taken that fuse with it, because obviously that fuse is now open. Now there is a really easy way we can see if we can fix this system, right? I'm just going to test it by replacing that fuse. If it blows again, we've got a bad motor driver IC. If it works, fingers crossed. I very much doubt it, but fingers crossed. We never know. So that's what I'm going to do next, replace that fuse. Okay, I have the PlayStation motherboard on the bench. What I'm going to show you now is the offending fuse. But first, I want to just go through a few things. Here's the power input. Our power board plugs into this socket. If we look to the right in this area here, we can see all the fuses. Some of those black squares aren't fuses, they're diodes and inductors, but the majority of them are fuses. Now, if we look to the right, just above this electrolytic capacitor, we can see a bank of 3 fuses, and our offending one is this middle one here. Now, what that fuse does is that fuse is on the power line for the motor driver IC. Now what I'm going to do is show you that fuse is blown. I've got my multimeter on continuity at the moment. I hope the camera's picking that up. Now if I go for the top fuse, we'll see that it's absolutely fine, it's fully working. And there you go. Now if we go for the offending middle fuse, we shouldn't get anything, it should be open. Yeah, it's fully open. Now if we go for the bottom fuse, just to round it off, we should see it be fine. Yep, so the offending fuse is the middle fuse. Now what I want to show you is, remember the schematic earlier on? Here's our power input. Here's our offending fuse. If we move along a bit, we can see that 1 microhenry inductor. We move a little bit further along, here's our smoothing cap, the 47 microfarad electrolytic. We move on a little bit more, we come up and we see some stitching. I'll move the board up, we can see 4 vias that are being stitched to the other side of the board. Now if I turn the board over, and here's our motor driver IC, and if I tilt it up so you can see it, here's those 4 stitch holes, and you can see they're going straight into the power input for that chip. So what I need to do is replace that offending fuse, this one in the middle. Okay, fuses arrived from Sony. The ones that are on the PlayStation board were actually manufactured by Sony, and Sony don't make them anymore, so you can't get them from anywhere. But yeah, there's nothing special about those fuses. I didn't know if they were fast blow or slow blow, so when in doubt, always get fast blow, that way you cover your backside. Now these are 1 amp fuses. In the schematic you saw it was said 0.8, that was for a 9000 model, this is a 5000 model, and in the 5000 model they're 1 amp, and the footprint is 1206, and there's the part number. So if you want to go and buy these fuses, you can do. Okay, so my plan of action here to get this fuse off is to actually rock it off, and I'll explain that in a minute. What I'd normally use is hot air. See, now it's surface mount, but see, now as a lot of components are really close together, you know, if I come in and start blasting this thing with hot air, I could damage some inductors, I could damage this electrolytic capacitor. So what I'm going to do is rock it off. I'm going to come in this side with my soldering iron, heat it up, lift it a little bit, come this side, same again, lift it a little bit, and then just keep rocking it like that until it comes off the board. So I'm just going to crack on with that now. I apologise in advance if I nudge the camera because I'm working around the camera, so this might not be my neatest work, so this is going to be a little bit tough. Yep, that's that side. Right-handed soldering, never my good technique. You may have noticed I'm a left-hander, guys. And there we go, we're off. Now what I can do is put a little bit of flux on that. There. Come in with my solder braid. Clean that up a little. And there we go. Hopefully you can see that. What I'll do now, give it a little bit of a clean with some alcohol on a cotton bud. Oh, what's that red? Oh, it's that that little red mark there. No idea what that was. It looked like blood for a second. I haven't cut myself, have I? There we go. Fuse is off. You can see that. What I'll do now is put the new fuse on. I'm just gonna come in with a little dab of flux. Don't want too much, just want a little bit on each side. Will do. Come in with my chisel tip. Put a bit of solder on one end. Some solder on that pad. Come in with my fuse. Hope it doesn't ping across the room. Push on it, push down flat. There we go, we're nice and flat. It's that side. Do the same for the opposite side now. Just come in when you really need to touch it. And there we go, we're done. What I can do now is a little tip to make it look nice and neat, guys. Get your solder wick and just wick off some excess. Solder, and that neatens it up quite nicely. So what I'm going to do now, same again, alcohol on a Q-tip, clean that up. Where that red mark's coming from. And that's it. Brand new fuse. What I'm going to do now is get this back together. We'll give it a try. If that fuse blows, we have to replace the motor driver IC as well. Just thought I'd give you a look at the new fuse in place. It just shows you how much fuse technology has moved on. I mean, if you look at the two either side of it, how big they are compared to the new one. Okay, I've got it partially back together after replacing the fuse. I've only partially put it together because I'm probably going to have to get into this again, so I don't want to put the lid on and everything like that. So yeah, let's give it a try. What I'm going to do is put my finger on the lid sense button and power on and see what we get. Oh, I don't believe it. We got over by a fuse. You have got to be shitting me. Yeah, look. Oh, you fucking fused motherfucker. Guys, that is the first time I've ever seen the fuse blow. Normally it's the motor drive IC will fail and the fuse is still intact. I want to see that again, because was I seeing things? Son of a oh dear. Okay, let's get the lid back on this and give it a proper test. Okay guys, ready to give this system a test. I have an original version of Resident Evil 3 Nemesis in there. This PlayStation is not mod chipped, however it will be very soon. I'm not going to show you that, I've already got a video showing me chipping the PlayStation. But yeah, I've had to go and dig out an original, and I've got Resident Evil 3 Nemesis in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut the lid and power on and see if we boot. And we do. You know your PlayStation's booted when you see that logo. So nice, everything looks to be looking like it's working. So yeah, there you go guys. It wasn't the laser that was at fault. Okay guys, just a quick follow-on video. This is a couple of days later. I just wanted to film this bit because I found out something very interesting. The first thing, the PlayStation's now chipped. I'll show you a picture of that. Now if you're wondering what game's in the background, it's Metal Gear Solid. It's now chipped. This is a backup version of Metal Gear Solid, but I don't care because I own the original, so sue me. But yeah, it was while I was mod chipping this system, I decided to strip it down, strip the case down, and I found out why this system blew a fuse. What I'm going to do is show you that if I open the lid. And if I can show you, I don't know whether you can see that. If you look at the lid sense button, it looks a bit chewed up. If you look at the post that pushes down on the lid sense button, you can see that's chewed up as well. That's all pointing towards evidence that someone was disc swapping with this PlayStation. Now if you don't know what that is, I'll explain it. Pretty much what they do is they get something between this post here and the lid sense button to push it down when the lid's actually open, and what they'll do is they'll power on, boot the console, and just after the console's done the check on the CD to see if it's genuine, what they'll do is they'll come along and they'll grab a genuine disc, they'll put it out, and then they'll put the backup disc in, and the console will just boot the backup disc because it's already done the check to see if it's a genuine disc. Now the problem with that is the motor driver IC gets a current spike because you know you're coming along and grabbing this disc as that spindle motor spinning around. Now how does any chip deal with excess current? it converts it to watts. You know, what is ampage times voltage? It's watts. So what happens is when you come along and you grab this and you stop that spindle motor from spinning, that motor driver IC has got to sink all that heat. And what happens over time is it doesn't happen straight away, you know, it takes a long time to do it, but you keep coming along, you keep grabbing this, you keep grabbing this, you keep grabbing this, and eventually what happens is your motor driver IC will burn up and it will fail. But luckily in this system what's happened is the fuse is blown. So yeah, bit of advice, if you're still disk swapping, please stop. It's far better for your system if you just chip it. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, all the usual stuff, and as always, I'll catch you on the next one. Metal Gear, baby. You little